Hello everyone, welcome to Lab 8.3.6 from DivNet Associate course from Cisco. In this lab, you will learn how to use NetConf to get information from a router or network device, and you will see that NetConf is dealing only with XML, so we are going to use Prettify XML to be able to extract the information or configurations of the device. And then we are going to repeat the same process. I mean that we are going to get the device configurations or information about the device using NC client. NC client is a Python module. So with NC client, you will be able to get or retrieve the information from the network devices, and then also you can filter out the information, and you can also set the configuration of the router device using NC client in your device. Okay, so let's get started. Here we have the lab. So what we need, of course, we need first to build the connectivity or to make sure that the device or the virtual image, this one in the background, is connected to the virtual router. So we need to start the router now. While the router is loading, let's see the background or the scenario. So the network configuration protocol, which is NetConf, uses YANG data model to communicate with various devices on the network. If you still don't know what does it mean YANG, I recommend you to see the previous video, which is about how to prepare a YANG using Python as well. Okay, so what are we going in this to do in this lab one more time? First, we are going to use NetConf client, and we will see again how to retrieve information in XML format, and then we are going to see NC client module. Okay, we have now the router ready. Now let's check the IP address. And as you can see, the IP address now is 192.168.56.101. So let's try to ping. And as you can see, now we have connectivity with the router. So I did check the connectivity. With this step, we already have done with build a network and verify the connectivity. Let's establish an SSS session. So to do this, we can open a new terminal and we type SSH, and then, as you know, the name of the device Cisco, and the IP address is 192.168.56. And of course, yes. And the password, as you already know, which is Cisco 123 exclamation mark. And as you can see now, we have SSH established. And we are going to leave the SSH session open for the next part. And now we are going to check if NetConf is running on CSR on the router. So let's check that through this command. And as you can see here, NCSSHD is running, and we have it here also running. Okay, so we don't need to enable the netconfig because it's already enabled. If it is not enabled in your machine, so you have to do this step, configure terminal, and then type this command netconfig -yang. Okay, in the next step, we are going to access the netconfig processor through SSH terminal. So what we are going to need to do, we are going to enter the same previous command, and then we're going to specify the port, which is 830, and then -s, which is for netconfig. So okay, let's do this step together, and we should see the output similar to this one here. It ends up with this sign here. And as you can see here, this is like the end of the netconfig message are identified with these characters. Okay, let's open a new terminal. And then let's type this command. Again, Cisco 123 exclamation mark. And as you can see here, we have now the hello message here as it's identified or written in the tutorial. So let's now use it here. Here we are. So now we are going to start the netconfig session by sending a hello message from the client itself. So to do this, we need to start the hello message using these lines. I'm going to copy them to a file again. Here lines were from previous videos, so now I need a new one here, and I put them in one line. And I have the session here started, so I need to paste them here, and let's see. And now we have the session. As you can see, we have the session still there. And now let's retrieve some information. So here we already started the netconfig session, and next we are going to send a remote procedure call messages to the router device. Here we have the messages that we can use with the netconfig client, but as you can see here, we need to copy and paste this RPC get messages code into the terminal session to retrieve information about the interfaces on router 1. Okay, so let's take these lines, and again let's put them in this file because we are copying from a PDF file. And as you can see here, we have got the information in XML format. And here it was the end of the previous instruction, and here we start a new the information we retrieved from it. So let's copy them, and let's search on Prettify XML. Let's try this one. Paste here. We need to delete these characters because it's not it doesn't belong to the XML. So let's try again. And here we have now the information. So here we have the Prettify XML. Okay, so here you saw that we retrieved information from the router using netconfig, And this is all about this part. We need only to close the session. We are going to use another remote procedure called messages, which is this one. And after that, we are going to repeat the process. We are going to retrieve information or configurations from the router, but we are going to use NC client through Python. However, let's close the session now. As you know, here we have multiple lines, so we need to put them in one line before use them in the SSH terminal. As you can see here, it's closed, and let's make sure from this we are going to show netconfig young session, and this should be nothing there, and there is no inactive session here. Okay, so here what we saw and here what we did now. Okay, so let's move forward to part. Okay, so in part 3, as I mentioned, now like working with netconf does not require working with the raw netconfig remote procedure called messages.xml. In this part, actually it does require working with netconfig messages and XML. In this part, you will learn how to use the NC client Python model to easily interact with the network device using net protocol. Okay, in addition, you will learn how to identify which young model or models are supported by the device. This information is helpful when you build a production network automation system that requires specific modules to be supported by the given network device. Okay, again, I would like to highlight again or mention, if you still don't know what does it mean young, I recommend you to see the previous video. Okay, so in the first step, we are going to verify that NC client is installed and ready to use. And let's take this command here. This is the SSH to the router, so we are going to keep this one. This one, now I don't need it anymore. And here I'm going to work now. Out which module we should see here. NC client should be there. Alphabetically arrange. And as you can see here, we have NC client, which is quite good. And here we list all the installed packages, as you can see here, to see all Python modules currently installed. As you can see, we have Ansible, we have Apache, and I think you already know them now. If you are watching this video after all of the previous videos, so you know what is Ansible, what is now um, um, Apache and so on, because we already worked with them in the previous labs. So again, this is interesting to know this command, pip3 list and format in columns and all through direct the output to a more direction, or you can direct the output to a file and then you can check all the models installed on your machine carefully. However, returning back to this lab, we only wanted to check that if NC client is installed or not, and it actually installed here. Okay, so let's continue the tutorial, and now we are going to create a new directory. The name of the directory is netconfig, which is under DevNet Labs. I think now we can do it in a fast way. And I'm not going to use Visual Studio, I'm going to use Vim. And we are going to create a file. The name of the file is nclient.netconfig inside the directory netconfig. And we are going to put this code in it to connect to the device. And as you can see here from nclient import manager, and we assign a variable called m with manager connect to the host IP address. Here we have the IP address of the router, we have the ports here, we have the username, and here we have the password, and finally here we have a host key verification or verify, and we are going to put it false because here we don't need to make like a fingerprint or so things like that. Okay, so let's do this. Just make sure from the IP, show IP interface brief on the router, which is 192.168.56.101. And here the name of the file, and we need to put these couple of lines. And let's save it, and now let's get it run. And you can see here you will not see any output yet since we are connected. So now our connection, let's check again. Cisco 123 exclamation mark, and show ID interface brief. Okay, and let's see the connection, which is so netconfig yang sessions. Okay, because we did not activate the yang yet, we just made the connection. Okay, so now let's move forward. Now we are going to add a print function to the script for the CSR listed. So we are going to add this. Again, as you can see here, there are no active sessions. Activate the netconfig protocol yet. We just made the connection. Okay, so let's check again the file, and here we are going to add the print function. And as you can see here, we have output here, which is similar to this one here. Okay, what is this output about? This is like the output is the same you got from sending the XML hello message, but without opening and closing capability XML tag on the line. Okay, so next step, which is part 4, we are going to use NC client to retrieve the configuration from the router. Okay, so to retrieve the information, we are going to use the mgetconfig, which is from m object we already defined here at the here with this one. So we are going to use now m with get configuration here. So we need to take these two lines and we don't need these 3 lines anymore. We don't need to print. What we can see here, we have the netconfig replay and we have the object m with getconfig with the source running. So we are going to retrieve the on the router itself. So we will see the output after running the out. So as you can see here, we have like unexpected indentations, and let's check one more time what was the problem. And as you can see here, we don't need to put these for spaces. So here now, hopefully everything will going to be okay. And as you can see here now, we have output, and again it's in XML format and it is not clear or nice enough. So of course you are free to copy paste again and use Prettify XML, but since we are using Python module now, we can handle this through Python itself, and we can use Python to prettify the XML output. This can be done by importing this module. And also we can change the print line to be in this format. I'm going to explain this line now. Just let's phrase this one. So here we have the print function and we are using the module this one. And then we are going to parse string and then netconfig reply.xml and then top with this method. And as you can see here now, our output is much nicer, prettified. Okay, so let's move forward. After we have done with this step, we are going also now to learn how to use a filter with getconfig to only retrieve a specific Yang module. So here we retrieved everything, and as you saw, the output was a bit long. So now we are going to retrieve only the configuration of specific part from the running configurations. So to do this, we need to put a filter, and the filter here we called it Netconfig Filter. And as you can see here with the filter here, we are going to send this API, and then we are printing again the filter with mgetconfig source running, and then we put the filter name here. Okay, so let's do this. Save it and run it again. Okay, we have the same output because we forgot one line, which is we have to activate the filter, which is in this step. we need to get configuration from the source running, but with this filter only. Netconfig filter, which is Netconfig filter. Let's check the output, which is here native. Which is only started with a native as well here. Okay, so let's move forward, and now we are going to use NC or this model from Python to configure a device or to change one of the configurations. And now we are going to change the name of the device from NC, as you will see here, from CSR1 KV to new hostname. Okay, so if we will check it again, we have the hostname now under this now CSR1 KV. This is the name here. And now we are going to change the name using few lines of code. And to do this, we need to assign a new variable, and we put in the variable the config, and we assign this API, and then we give the hostname in this format, and then we close the brackets. So let's do this together. Again, the variable is netconfig, and here we have config, here we have to be a native, and here we assign the host name, and then we put native here, and then we close the config, and we also need to assign this with the configuration, so we need this part here. Okay, so let's check it up again. And here we have it's okay, as you can see here, and here we have the same output there, and it's okay. Okay, so let's check one more time. Cisco 123 exclamation mark. And as you can see now, the name is changed to the new host name. We did this through Python script, which is this one here. Okay. What next we need to do? After that, we are going to use NC client module to create a new loopback interface on R1 router. So to do this, we are going to include these lines into the Python file. And here the netconfig loopback, this is the name of the variable. And here again the config, and we should assign this API, and then we give interface loopback, and the name of the interface loopback is 1, and here we need to give a description here. However, this is free, you can change it, and here we IP address, and here we have the IP address. Okay, so let's take this to the file. And we need to add these two lines, which is included the configuration, the variable here, into the printing format. Show IP interface brief on the router itself. And as you can see here, we have the loopback is successfully added here in the router itself. Okay, so let's move forward. Now let's try to attempt to create a new loopback interface with the same IP version 4 address. As you know, this is not allowed. But here we have this procedure. We need to define a new variable, and then we're going to put them here together. We need to change this to 2, and we will keep the password, or we will keep the IP address the same. Okay, and then we are going to run the file. We should see device refused on one or more command. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to call this for here new. Let's check it together again. Here I changed, here is 2, and we just need to put the second line here, which is netconfig new loop. Netconfig new loop, and as you can see, device refused one or more command. Now let's make sure from this. As you can see here, we still have only loopback 1 because the second one was rejected. And the file here will be also available in the description box, this one. I think we reached to the end of this lab. And in part 6 we have a challenge here to modify the program used in this lab. So here we have the whole program, and the file will be also in the description box. You only may need to check your IP address here. It might happen that you will have a different IP address in the router in your device. Okay, so also to recap here, you can see we changed the host name by assigning with this config variable, and then we give this IP API, and then we put the host name here. Of course, you are free to use the internet or Google documentation about this, how to use them, but the most important point here again to catch the idea or the concept. Thank you and see you next video.